Now, the next story, it's rather a sad one with a military flavour. It's all about Claude and his sword. Now, my cousin Claude was a second lieutenant, and he was a good un at that. But he got so much praise for his smartness on duty. His head got too big for his hat. When the general hears of him, he says, "Let me see," and he screws up his face in a frown. "I think I'll be free about next Tuesday week." So he sends Claude a wire, coming down. When Claude gets a wire, he wants, "Oh, please," and he jigs like a jester with bells, and he says to his soldiers, "Now polish them cannons and make nice tidy heaps with the shells." Well, the great day comes round and the general arrives, and the troops with excitement did seethe, for as Claude stepped forward to give the salute, his sword sticks halfway in its sheath. "Ooh, I can't get it out," says poor Claude, looking glum, "and I can't get it back, it's got stuck." Of course, this would happen today of all days. I call that blue pencil hard luck. Well, the general's face was all colours by now. Someone whistled deep purple for luck. He said, "No, what's the matter?" Claude says, "Use your eyes. Can't you see it's my sword? It's got stuck." Well, the blokes on parade, they all started to yawn while the general stood tapping his boot. And as Claude struggled hard, you could easily see that sword had sure taken root. So the general says, "Well, if you can't get it out, there don't seem much use in my stopping. If it's okay with you, I'll be back Friday sharp. If you get me my horse, I'll be off it." So Claude walks away looking sad and forlorn, but comes back very soon looking more so, because the effort to try to get out his sword had played havoc with most of his torso. Then Claude says, "Excuse me, but regarding your horse," says the general. "Well," Claude says, "don't shout. He's eat too many oats while he stood in the stall. Like my sword, sir, I can't get him out." Oh, by the way, talking about my funny occupations, I'd just like to slip another one in, so I'm going to introduce you to another character. And he's just got a job as an attendant in a Turkish bath. Well, anyway, I'll tell you about him, and then he can speak for himself. Now, a chap named Charlie Wilberforce is quite well known to me. He's got a most exacting job, I think you will agree. He's working at the Turkish bath. He pummels backs and tums. I'd better let him talk to you. Ah, splendid. Here he comes, just like a pantomime. Hello, Mr. Wilberforce. Now, will you carry on with the song and tell us all about yourself? Yeah, certainly, by all means. Yes, I'm a body basher working at the Turkish, and body bashing's really my delight. I bang their kidneys and their livers till their torso fairly quivers, and they shout as if I'm putting out their light. For a uniform, I sport a towel and plimsolls, 'cause the plimsolls stop me slipping on the wet. And when I slap 'em with my towel, they let out owl after owl. But it's the finest exercise that you can get. It is really. Of course, actually, I started life in a baker's shop kneading dough. But as time went on, the more dough I needed, the less dough I got. And as I needed more dough for money, I chucked up kneading dough to earn more dough kneading human bodies that really needed kneading, and had the dough to spend on kneading if necessary. Of course, you must remember that absent-mindedness in this business is unforgivable and risky. As, for instance, the man working on the Hopperside slab to me, he used to work in a fishmonger's shop. And one day he shoved a customer's head between his legs like a whiting and had him half wrapped up in a newspaper before he realised he wasn't back at his old job. So, if ever you're going to have a Turkish bath, keep your head up and your heels together. And this advice comes to you from a scrubber down of human frames and torsos, a torso slapper with a real jiu-jitsu grab. Whether dustman, duke or devil, they're all on the self-same level when they're lying there before me on the slab. Now one day I might go in for osteopathy. That's putting bones back in the place where they belong. But until I'm qualified, I will just be satisfied in helping people lose their bong pong. I don't know what that means, but thank you one and all. I've already told you one little story about football pools, and really winning them can be a mixed blessing. Now here is another little story of a family who won quite a lot of money, and it's called If I'd Only Put an X Instead of One. Now it's very, very difficult for working blokes like me, one ain't been educated at posh schools, to make a bit of dough unless they has a go at that institution, what they calls a pools. Now I've done mine each week regular like, with X's, 2's and 1's, because after all, you never know your luck. And I thought I got 'em licked, because last week I nearly clicked. But I'll tell you how it was, I come unstuck. If I'd only put an X instead of 1, I'd be richer by 10,000 quid or more. Yeah, I could have bought a car and some nylons from me ma. Well, lots of things that I've been saving for. To be so near and yet so far, it don't half seem a pity. If only Crystal Palace could have drawn with Norwich City. And if Everton had lost at home, then I'd be sitting pretty. If I'd only put an X instead of 1. Yeah, and I've done me coupons every week for 10 whole years or more, and not a blinking sausage have I won. Till the missus says, "Now, Joe, why not let me have a go? 'Cause I couldn't do no worse than what you've done." "What, let you have a go?" I says. "Why, you ain't studied form. You don't even know what league the teams is in." She said, "I don't care a jot, but I mean to have a shot if I have to pick the winners with a pin, the silly cat." And she goes and puts some 2's and then a 1. All haphazard like and contrary to form. She puts Tottenham to win, then she tells him with a grin, "Well, they must be good, 'cause that's where Dad was born." Well, after a remark like that, I should have just ignored her. But when she said, "Have you a stamp?" I really could have floored her. And on top of that, I had to buy the blinking post lauder. And she's been and put an X instead of 1. Well, I puts the coupons in the post like what I always do. Till Saturday, I didn't give a thought. Then a quarter after 6, before we went off to the flicks, I switches on the wireless for the sport. The announcer bloke is saying, the league, Division 1. So I grabs a pencil and the evening mail. Then I checks up on the score like I've always done before. Then I comes all over queer and goes quite pale. Of course, although she'd put an X instead of 1, my old gal had done what I could never do. With a method calm and cool, she'd been and scooped the pool with me blinking stamp and postal order too. So it only goes to show you that where ignorance is blisses. Don't study form, it ain't no good, just leave it to the missus. She'll make a better job of it with 1's and 2's and kisses, even though she puts an X instead of 1. Well, in due course we gets the cash, £10,000 or more, but I can't say that I'm any better off. I got a motor car and some nylons from me ma, and I'm living like a plutocratic toff. But are we happy? Ask the wife. She'll tell you that we ain't. 'Cause it ain't all beer and skittles being posh. To be a wealthy guy with a collar and a tie and have to take your shirt off when you wash. How I wish she'd put a 1 instead of X. Well, now we got the dough, we don't know what to do. We had a bit of fun putting X and 2 and 1. Now, there's nothing left for looking forward to. So I'm going to give the money up, present it to the nation. And football pools again will be our weekly relaxation. Because the missus wants to try her hand at permutation. And I hope she puts an X instead of 1. Good luck to her. Of course, it's an old saying that every comic wants to be a straight actor, a serious actor, wants to do Hamlet. Well, I don't want to do Hamlet, not even with a beard on, but I would like to tell you a rather sad story which is indicative of a march of time about an old butler who had to leave the family that he'd been working for years. I'm an elderly butler who's saying goodbye to the family that I've had to serve, and now that the time's come to bid them farewell, I feel that I've quite lost my nerve. 45 years. You know, that's quite a long time. And now that they've sold the estate, though they're sorry for me, they won't have any room in their flatlet in Notting Hill Gate. Oh, thank you, my lady. Goodbye. A very sad moment, it seems. The years in between have just gone in a flash since I came as a footman, so eager and rash. And thank you, my lady. God bless you for the kindnesses you've always shown. The days of our grandeur have gone now forever. Seems very hard, all these ties we must sever. Do please give my best wishes to young Mr. Trevor. Thank you, my lady. Goodbye. Thank you. Oh, no, I shan't stay in this neighborhood, for the council will come and they'll tear down the place. And that is a sight that I just couldn't face. You're upset, my lady, so am I, because it's all been a terrible wrench. With the children grown up and gone off on their own, but you'll have them around you, so you won't feel alone. And they'll give you no peace when they put in the phone. Thank you, my lady. Goodbye. The car's at the door, and my lady is gone. And I feel rather woolly inside. I'm glad that she gave me that photo of her when she came to the house as a bride. Her generous annuity's more than enough. And I feel quite a tear in my eye, 'cause she's one of a kind that we'll never replace. Thank you, my lady. Goodbye. Now, here's another military story, and this time it's all about Frank and his tank. I told you just now about Claude and his sword, how with generals he would try and swank. Well, now I will speak of a great friend of mine. So I'll talk about Frank and his tank. When he first joined, the sergeant said, "What can you do?" And Frank said, "Well, all kinds of things. I can ride a girl's bike, and I play drafts a bit. And I've also an auntie what sings." And the sergeant says, "Well, now we're all satisfied. And though you ain't told me a thing, I ask you a query and you tell me nothing except that your auntie can sing. In a very few words," says the sergeant, "you're here to learn how to drive these here tanks. Would you like to drive one?" Frank said, "Well, I don't mind." Said the sergeant, "Well, let's settle." Frank says, "Thanks." So they walks out together, though not arm in arm, to where one of these monsters was stood. Says the sergeant, "Do you think you could cope with this here?" Frank said, "Well, if you did, then I could." "After you," said the sergeant, so Frank hops up quick in his overalls, well pressed and dapper. But before the sergeant had got properly settled, Frank lets down the lid on his napper. Then to Frank's great surprise, the tank started to move, and his hands got all sticky like toffee. At that moment, they got to the officers' mess, where the colonel was just taking coffee. Well, a tank running wild doesn't think of those things, and as Frank started thinking of mother, the tank pushed its way through one side of the mess and pushed its way out through the other. Then Frank said a lot of things under his breath, and his hands were much stickier than toffee. He had the unconscious sergeant, the tank running wild, and the colonel on top with his coffee. Well, they came to a ditch, and the colonel got off, 'cause he'd finished his coffee by now. And the sergeant came to, says, "We going somewhere?" Frank said, "Blimey, I think so, and now." Then the sergeant said, "Whoa, there's a pond over there on the far side of that grassy bank." So they both hopped out quick, and they let the tank go. And when it got to the pond, Frank's tank sank. Then Frank said, "Well, I'm sorry, but what could I do? I know I said I could do lots of things." Said the sergeant, "There's one thing you'd better do quick. Has get back to your army what sings." You know, before I was a sergeant at Dock Green, I was an ordinary copper. And now I'd like to finish with our theme song, just to remind me and you of those happy days when I was on the beat. I'm an ordinary copper who's patrolling his beat around Dock Green. "Hello, Mr. Dixon," shout the kids in the street around Dock Green. The CID are always in the headlines, but I prefer the ordinary scene as an ordinary copper who's patrolling his beat around Dock Green. Now, I've been in the police force for a long time, more years than I care to think about. Sergeants come and go, and inspectors come and go, but I'll stay on until they kick me out. I like the people I meet every day as I go quietly whistling on my way. The Teddy boys ain't partial to me company. They don't like all their capers to be seen by an ordinary copper who's patrolling his beat around Dock Green.